Okay, ladies and gentlemen, shall we make a start, shall we? So, I'll start at the moment. Firstly, welcome everybody to our annual parish meeting. Just to let you know, we're obviously live broadcasting this evening, so that is now live. So if anyone does have an issue about that, then speak now. There are obviously signs to advise you of that, but we will be proceeding by virtue of being in the room, knowing that it's live broadcast. Consent is given. Right, okay. Yes, okay. So we're starting the parish meeting tonight with a couple of reports and a presentation. Usually the idea of a parish is that we want to try and get our organisations here as well to give updates on what they've been doing and their achievements and aspirations. So tonight we're also thankful to Stuart coming along from Friends of the River team. Our waters are clearly a hot topic at the moment, both in the media and here where we live. And Stuart has been really helpful in recent months, keeping an eye on our waters and feeding back at meetings. So we thought we would take the opportunity for Stuart to come along and give us a presentation and bring everybody up to speed with what's happening. So over to you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, and thank you very much to the Mayor, the Clerk, and all the councillors for inviting us. What we want to talk about today is the community effort. So what's happened over the last month or so has really been quite a big effort, and it's one that we want to see the community as a whole playing a part in. So we're going to talk very quickly about the Gales Hill incident and some background as to what happened and how we found it, and how it was progressed. Going to talk about what we do next. How do we start to rebuild confidence in our water? What that's going to take from all of us, the effort that we all need to put in, and also a bit about how you can help. And that is a number that you will see 3 times in this presentation. And if you haven't written it down by the end, I'll be really disappointed. It's 0800 80 70 60. It's the Environment Agency helpline. They are really good. Ring it if you smell something, if you see something in the river that's not right, if there's a smell in the town, in the sewage or whatever, call that number. That is really, really important. And it's what we did. So let's move on, if we can get this to work. So Gales Hill. It was a significant pollution incident. It wasn't a small misconnection. What it shows is the value of having eyes on the ground. So people actually looking at the river, looking at what's actually happening. And there's an EA investigation that's ongoing. So I can't actually tell you all of the details about the incident. I'm not going to discuss who's actually to blame for this particular problem. So this is when it started. So we get a telephone call. Somebody says, go along to Gales Hill because it's coming out of a pipe. We get there 25 minutes later, and that is all we see. Just some foam on the beach, and frankly, there is not enough to report to the Environment Agency. To be honest, there's literally no point in reporting that. That is the sort of foam that you see virtually all of the time. So, next day, we have a think. We want to go back at the right time. We want to go back when the tide is going down And we also want to go back at the time when we know most sewage is going to be going out. That's between 7 o'clock in the morning and 10 o'clock in the morning. That's for fairly obvious reasons. So that's what we did. And we send Alec. Alec is our treasurer. He also happens to be a BBC cameraman, so he gets all the dirty jobs, basically. And here we go.
Well, what a lovely sunny day on the River Team. Oh, there's a cormorant just died down there.
The overall.
We're walking on salty, hasn't rained for a few days, or not much anyway. And here we are at the overflow. Lots of drainers and toilet paper and poo and all sorts of stuff coming out of the overflow there.
Disappearing like a shot.
This is on Gales Hill alongside the docks. So this then all washes down past all the areas down there and Timber Bat Beach, he says, trying to zoom in, which is a favourite swimming location. So yeah, we need to sort this out really, don't we?
Oh, not too far. I knew that would happen. So we took a water sample. This is a proper lab quality water sample that goes off to Heathrow to be analysed, and we do some other things. So we notify the Environment Agency. We ring that number, we tell them about it. We tell Teambridge, Harbour Master, Teignmouth Town Council, Shelburne Parish Council, because we know this is actually going to be a significant incident. And we send off a test for analysis, and we try and do something that's actually more difficult than it might appear. We're going to try to confirm where that pipe is on the network. So this is on the left-hand side, you can see all of the sewage network and the surface water network. And the Environment Agency were basically saying that it was coming out of this pipe. We were saying, oh no, it's not, it's coming out of this one over here. So we have to have a discussion with the Environment Agency about where the incident was. So it's actually, at that stage, actually quite sort of complicated. So fast forward to the 2nd of April. So we sent off our lab test. It takes 3 or 4 days to come back with the results. And this is the result at the top. So it's 10,000, greater than 10,000 CFUs, column forming units. Don't need to worry about it. 10 would be clean water, less than 10. So greater than 10,000 was a really clear clue that this was genuinely sewage. So at that point, we actually knew that that was a significant sewage leak that was coming out of it. So what do we do? Well, again, we informed the Environment Agency of the test results, and we put a communication on our Facebook page. So we actually told people about it, and we felt that we needed to do that, even though that is 2nd of April, that's the day before the Easter holidays. So that's quite a big step to actually do that, but we felt we were obliged to actually tell people about this particular problem. 6th of April, so that's over the weekend, we're actually beginning to get some reports. So these reports actually include some reports of some illness. So there are some rowers that use Gales Hill Beach, and they're reporting that they've actually been ill as a result of what's happened. We also had some more eyewitness reports about what people actually saw coming out of that pipe and the scale of it. And we actually provide some more data to the Environment Agency. And the big question was, is this just a misconnection, or is this actually something that's actually larger? So again, our feeling is that this was actually quite a significant incident, and not just one small pipe that is connected into the wrong sewage line. So that was the big question at this stage. So fast forward again, it's taking some time, so that, and we're beginning to get a little bit concerned. So the 9th of April was actually the warmest day of the year, and there were lots of people swimming on the back beach. The sea temperature at that stage was average for mid-May. So it's quite warm at the moment. So there were a lot of people actually swimming on the back beach. So we follow it up with the Environment Agency again. We say, basically what's happening. There are a lot of people on the beach, and we're slightly concerned about it. And we follow it up with some more communications on our Facebook page. 10th of April, this is the Environment Agency. This isn't us. The Environment Agency issued a warning for no bathing on Shoreham Beach. And 2 tankers appear in the middle of the street, actually pumping out sewage in the middle of the town. And those tankers are there 24/7, just pumping out sewage. So at that stage, we actually know that this is, our suspicions were right from the very beginning that this was actually quite a significant issue. 23rd, it's over. They've found the leak. They've dug some holes in the bottom of Exeter Hill, and they believe that actually it's a leak from a southwest water sewage line into the surface water line that goes straight into the estuary of Gelter. So the incident actually lasted in total 25 days. There's a few reports of illness. We think there are 4 or 5 cases which are directly linked to it. And if you look at it, Sheldon Beach has had sewage problems for 60 days this year. So there were 35 days when the Sheldon pumping station was overflowing, and 25 days of this particular incident. And that is not, to put too fine a point, a great start to our tourist season. So it is not great. The investigation is still continuing. The Environment Agency had specialist officers that came in and carrying out the investigation, and that is actually still in the process of carrying on. And there's that number again, 0800 80 70 60. And that is really important. If you take nothing away from today, it would be that number. I want sort of etched in your brains, because if you can report these incidents, it does make a difference. So actually, we want to say a big thank you to the Environment Agency. They are a group of new people in the Environment Agency. They've got a lot of new recruits. Some of them are local, so they actually live in this area. And they are genuinely committed to looking after the river as much as we are. So actually, thank you to the Environment Agency. A lot of people have said, "Oh no, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't a big issue." That is pretty gross. That's 13 seconds. That's going on for 24 hours. That's not, it's not just an occasional overflow. That is flowing out like that pretty much all the time. When the tide goes out, there's a whole slug of that goes down the river onto the back beach. This is where I can't get out. That horrible picture up there, and I can't get rid of it. So how are we going to move on from incidents like this? Well, it is a community effort. It is something that we all need to take part in. We're arranging a special screening of, this is a plug, by the way, of Joe in the Water. Joe is Joe Bateman from Exmouth. She's actually suing South West Water. Her story is absolutely superb. And if you can come along to the pavilions on the 17th of May, that would be really good. We'd love to see as many of you that can make it. It's a really inspiring story. So how do we restore confidence? I mentioned that at the beginning. Well, we actually think that doing real-time testing, so actually being able to give you a test result of whether the water is good or bad within 15 minutes, will enable us to show that actually most of the time the water quality out there is actually pretty good. And that will actually help to restore confidence and actually, encourage people to actually come here because, we'll have tested and told people what the water quality is. We're working with Exeter University on some quite groundbreaking research into a bacteria called Vibrio. It's a nasty bacteria that is becoming more prevalent because of climate change. But again, the aim of the research is to work out how we can actually predict where it's going to be, so we can actually prevent illness and make sure that we can protect people, so that people can still use the river, knowing that they'll be safe. So that research will publish later in the year, probably in, we hope sort of May, June time. And this one we put on the slide yesterday to say that we as a group are hoping to get approval of as a charity, and that came through at about 3 o'clock this afternoon. So we are now officially a charity. And I've just got to say that Carolyn over there, who's our treasurer, who sat there, who was not secretary. I've got the wrong title. That's it. But she's been absolutely amazing in getting us to the stage where we've become a charity. And that will actually free up some grants, and we've applied to the council for a grant, and if that could be given favourable consideration, we'd be very, very grateful. So our fundraising will be scaling up. That's what our aim is, to raise more money, to do more testing, to be able to demonstrate that the water quality is good when it is, and to find problems when it's not. And that's what our aim. So we're going to do some more investigations, and we're absolutely passionate about making South West Water and anybody else that cares to dump anything in the river more accountable. That's what we believe our role is, and that's what we're going to continue to do for the rest of the year and years to come. And if you think the problem at Gales Hill was a bad one, this is Heathfield. Heathfield sewage treatment works, and that is effluent with a blue tint. Nobody knows what the blue tint is. The Environment Agency have asked South West Water to find out what it is. We're going to ask South West Water whether they've actually found out what it is causing that blue tint. When it rains, that goes in the river. So the real question is, what is that blue goo? That up there, obviously we know what that is, that's toilet paper. But the blue stuff, no idea. So how can you help? Report smells and pollution and everything like that. So, 0800 80 70 60. If you're not already on the Facebook page, then please join us. We do have a crowdfunder. It's not, we haven't made that much of it at the moment, but we're going to be putting that up so anybody wants to see it. And come along to see Joe in the water on the pavilions. That's Joe. She's an amazing, amazing lady who's gone from being, one campaigner to the, actually speaking in Trafalgar Square and being at the forefront of that. And it's a wonderful film. We're lucky we've got Jo herself, who's coming, Pip, who is the director, and we also got a representative from Lee Day solicitors, who are actually bringing a legal action against South West Water on behalf of everybody in this area and in areas around the southwest. So there it is. That's it again. 0800 80 70 60. Easy to remember, and that is really important. Have I kept the time?
You have.
Can I just confirm that the back beach is not a designated swimming beach?
Correct.
Because an awful lot of people go jumping off the fish quay and
Yes.
letting their kids paddle in
Yeah.
the water down there. Is it signed anywhere along those lines, and whose responsibility would that be?
If it were a designated bathing beach, there would be a sign to say, do not swim. There is no legal obligation, because it's not designated, to put up any signs there. There are some signs that say, don't swim, but they don't tell you why. We would like the beach to get the same level of protection as a designated bathing water. And that would mean that South West Water would be obliged to tackle the overflows in the brook, and the one up at First Avenue would be obliged to actually tackle those as a priority. Whether we can get designated bathing status for the back beach is difficult because of the way the legislation is written. So that shouldn't mean that that beach over there on Timber's side should get protection, not get protection, but the one in Cheltenham does. We actually feel that is fundamentally wrong. Because people move around, they get on a paddleboard and they cross from one to the other. It doesn't make sense.
Thank you very much for your presentation. It's very interesting. So thank you for all the work your group has done on sorting out the problem at Hales Hill. It's just very much appreciated by the community, I'm sure. You said about testing on the back beach.
Mm-hmm.
Have you any plans to test the water quality on the front beach throughout the summer?
Yes. The plan, we see the estuary and this area as one big system. So the plan would be to do some testing on the front beach, testing on the Shortland side, testing on back beach, and also at Combe Cellars, where there's a big sailing community. There's lots of people that go up there, row, sail, and everything like that. So the aim, if we can do it, is in August to do a test at each of those locations every day. So that is the equivalent of doing like 6 years of the Environment Agency testing in a month. So it's quite a big challenge, but if we get some funding and we can raise some money, then that's what we plan to do.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Off the hook
again
now.
for inviting us.
Oh, that's taken a bit, really helpful. Thank you. If that helps, we'll put that number on the website as well.
Yes, I mean, just put it in your phone, remember everything.
Yeah, we'll put it up.
I'm going to move back out.
Okay.
I'm shy.
You want to say the agenda with next? Right. Okay. So, although it's not on the agenda, but it's in this section, the Tim Lada wanted to just give a a few minutes just to update you on how the larder is doing. Thank you.
Great. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Deborah Jackson. My lovely husband Roger and I started Timothy Community Larder in about 2020 in one guise or another at that point, and it has changed since then. It's surprising how much it's needed. This month, out of about 180 people that sometimes use the larder, 115 people have used it so far, and that includes 41 children. Of the adults we support, 33 of them live on their own, and most of those are strangely older men. Numbers are slightly lower at the moment than they have been in the winter. They zoom up as soon as the heating goes on because suddenly you can't afford the rent and the heating and the bills. In the summer this year, so far, spring I suppose we are, aren't we? Some families are coping a little better because of the increase in the basic wage and the reversal of the two-child benefit cap. And that's helped them to manage food, rent and essential bills a bit better than they were. So since early March, we've been packing about 35 food parcels each week. We do weekly food parcels. We don't just hand out a couple of tins when people pop in. We deliver to many people because Timoth is full of hills, and carrying a great big bag or a week's worth of tins is heavy for people without transport, and most of the people who use our larder do not have transport. But more people are coming up to Bitten House, and it is probably the only larder you've ever, or food bank you've ever heard of, that actually works under chandeliers. You know, pretty posh, isn't it? They come up to collect their packs, quite a lot more people than used to, and to spend the time with us, the volunteers and other clients, over tea and coffee, which we give out free. And it's become rather the best time of the whole session, really, because for many, it's a time to come together and chat, maybe talk about your problems, maybe talk about how you're feeling, or just to meet people. I had one chap who came up and had a great long argument. It was quite a political argument, actually. In it, that's how I felt with the argument, you know. Can we stop arguing? And he went, yes, it was a good argument, wasn't it? And basically, that was because he said to me afterwards, I just talk to myself around the house. And this is lovely, coming up and being able to talk to people. There were a lot of laughs, there were a lot of hugs, some tears. So we've heard some extremely difficult personal stories, which underlie the reasons for people needing the larder. And we hope that the kindness and the consistency of our volunteers will help to ease that loneliness and support mental well-being. Social services referrals have increased massively this year, particularly in cases involving domestic violence, which is quite a large chunk of people who use the larder. And young care leavers, because suddenly when you're 18, if you've been fostered, you are a care leaver. And not everybody's ready at that age to manage their lives. Job loss does appear. We have some people, people say to us, oh, you just work with drug addicts and things like that. No, we don't just work with drug addicts, but sometimes we do, because they need help too. And we've got a couple at the moment really working hard to overcome their addiction. And it helps to be fed properly during that time. But far more than that is illness, disability, and very complex family issues, splits and things like that. We support residents across Timoth, Bishop, and Shaldon, and we do allow self-referral, as we seldom find anybody using the larder who does not acutely need its services when they ask. One of the most serious cases involved recently, an older person living entirely alone, and it appeared that they had no means at all of an income at the time. And they had been scavenging and foraging for food, and had eventually become very ill because they'd not eaten for a week. And social services they were reported to social services and then on to us. They asked us for an emergency pack, and that stabilised their health, because at last they got some food in, and helped them to think of ways to get over the situation they were in. And social services did a really good job with them and supported us too. Homelessness has been an issue, but at the moment we don't have anybody who doesn't have a roof over their heads. We continue to work closely with Teenaid. I know Lily knows all about that. And they are a group that will help to signpost and work out what is underneath people's poverty so that they can take their own steps forward and meet the right people who will help them move forward. And that link is really, really useful because I would chat with people and say, right, do you want to meet our teenage rep? Teenage, not teenage. And that works really well. So, you know, thanks to the finances of wonderful people in Timber, Shoreham, Bishop, everywhere, donating to us, we are just about balancing the books at the moment, and we're not huge numbers at the moment. My time I start to worry is about September. Lights go on, heating goes on, and woof, up with the numbers, and then haven't got enough money. So if you ever fancy supporting the Larder, our details are on the Facebook page. So that's really the update about the Larder. The little bit I'm adding on, you might be interested in because you may have read about all sorts of things in the Facebook things this weekend. A resident raised concerns to us about the overgrown and derelict state of Kingsway Children's Play Park. And I organised a session with friends and relatives and everybody I could find. And we went up to the park underneath Kingsway Meadow Centre. And it was pretty awful, actually. The grass is up to here, but that's all right on those wonderful banks covered with gorgeous buttercups. They're nice. It's not very nice when you've got stinging nettles and brambles coming out the legs of the play park stuff because it scratches people. So we worked hard on that and mowed and trimmed and got it fairly clear. Unfortunately, at the end of that Sunday, when we finished, somebody came and burnt something, a big bin or something like that, on the actual surface of one of the play park pieces, which was a bit of a blow, really. And we saw it on Facebook, and we went up the next day and dealt with the bits and pieces that were left and got rid of them. I was sad, really, though, that a lot of people put the picture up and said, oh, look, you know, it's been burned, hasn't it? And actually, hardly anybody thought about, well, I could brush some of this up, couldn't I, and make it safe again. So we did it, and a lovely dad from Kingsway, who'd been helping us on Sunday, also came up to do some help. We've also carried a bramble and nettle clearance outside Milford, inside Milford Play Park. And that's the little one off Lower Kingsdown, if any of you know. It's not very big, but again, the gateway in, you couldn't put your hand on the door for stinging nettles, so it wasn't very nice for the children. We didn't have the time or the strength to tackle a whole load more that day because we just done the previous one. And so I submitted a formal request to Timbridge District Council's Parks Department, well, to the leader of the council, and he sent me a very nice councillor, John Nutley, who met me this afternoon at 2 o'clock. And we looked at all sorts of dangerous little bits and pieces that we couldn't solve on our own, including the big concrete slope down from the Meadow Centre, which is unfenced, and which I live in dread of somebody sliding down. You've only got to step backwards and you crack your skull open on it. So he was really brilliant. I mean, I sent him an email Monday night, I think. I got a reply Tuesday morning, and I met with John at 2 o'clock this afternoon, so I couldn't have gone much faster if they tried, could they? So I will update you all with what they decide they can help us with on that. So thank you very much for listening. Not as exciting as that, but.
Right, okay, let's get on to the other aspects that we're here for. We need to consider and approve the minutes of the annual parish meeting that was held 12 months ago, which was on the 22nd of April 2025. We're obviously all with the agenda packs, so hopefully you've had an opportunity to have a look at those. They also contain the reports from various committees of that occasion. I need a proposer, unless there's any particular questions on those minutes that we need to address. But who was here last year and would like to propose them? Thank you. And then second by Joe. Okay. For those, can I have a show of hands for anyone who's here? Well, I'll do it once I was here. Right, moving on. So there is, within your agenda packs, your pages 17 and 18, there is a report from me on activities undertaken over the parish year. I don't plan to read it verbatim, but you can read it yourself. And we'll obviously have all the reports on our pages as well on the town council site, so you can access all of these reports in your own time as well. The only thing I think is important just to flag up, because it has been a very much a trial and a new project for the town council, which has gone very well, is the youth council that is now up and running. And they are a great bunch of kids, and they are really keen and eager, and that is something that I hope that going forward we will be able to develop and embellish in a really positive way for their interactions in the community and also with the council itself. So that's all I plan to say on that particular report at the moment. We've also got a copy of a report from Councillor Joan Atkins, who's our chair of the Finance Committee. Unless anyone has any questions on it, unless Joan's here, so if anyone has any questions about it, we can deal with them now, or I'm sure Joan will have conversations with you if you can afford to after the meeting as well. But it's a very detailed report, which I hope may in fact actually answer questions, but also just clarify the work that goes into making sure that we are financially sound and that our governance of finance requirements and regulations are maintained and covered. So thank you for that, Joan. That's a really helpful report.
That was the plan, that it's very people enough detail to really understand what is going on, what we're doing, all these checks and balances.
Yeah.
People's time.
And it is a combination of work between those in the office in the background who are doing the financial work on that ground, and also those, obviously, the councillors that have to go in and check, as well as our FO and our external auditors as well, that all play a role in making sure that that works successfully. So thank you for your hard work and that report. I can't see any hands, so I'm taking some questions at the moment. Okay, and then Councillor Underhill, moving on, has produced a assets and facilities short report. Thank you for that, Keith. Obviously, again, these reports will be on the website after today's meeting, and again, I'm sure any of the councillors who are part of these committees are more than happy to have discussions as well outside of the parish meeting, should anyone want to do that. I would also say that the committee meetings, the minutes and the agendas are on the town council website. The agendas go out publicly, and members of the public are able to come to those committee meetings and sit in and listen. And actually, they are a really good way of getting to know your councillors and who's doing what here behind the scenes, but also have an opportunity to hear discussions, look at what's been discussed, and all of the projects and the plans that the town council and its councillors are wanting to bring forth into the community. I think there might be some apprehension that it's a closed meeting in the sense that you can't come along to it, but quite frankly, I welcome anyone coming to those committee meetings because they're informative, and they're also a really good way of finding out how the rationales of decisions are given and how they're reached. So I just repeat that invitation. So, but thank you for your report. Next was a report from Councillor Comer, who's our chair of planning. I don't think we've got one. We've got one. No, okay. It's a bit downstairs. I haven't seen it. But okay. And then another fairly shortish report from me. Obviously, I'm currently the chair of the events committee. I have to just also publicly thank our officers who are part of that committee, because the councillors that are involved in this, we come up with plans and ideas, and then our wonderful team of magic Devon Pixies get on and they scurry behind and they do loads of work, and they do a fantastic job trying to make these plans come alive. So I do have to thank them for that work. But hopefully the public will have seen social media postings of all the planned events that we've had, but also that we have got coming up. And there's some really nice, exciting plans and events for all ages, involving all areas of the community to be involved in. So, and again, if anyone has any questions about the event or any ideas, if they think actually we'd like to see this, then either come along to the next events meeting or just grab hold of one of us or myself and have a chat about it, because we welcome that input as well. Again, I'm not seeing any hands as I'm speaking, so I'm presuming nobody's got any questions at the moment with that. We'll come on to that at point 9, I'm sure. But, and then thank you, Councillor Chasso, for your report on the annual HR updates on that. So, again, the team behind the scenes at the office work very hard, and they've all got quite a hard job to do at the moment with everything, and they are. We should be supporting them, so again we can enable them to flourish and really work and get the community knowing how much hard work is going for everybody. So thank you, councillors, for your reports. It's clearly come in good time so we can get those reports out to the public. Okay. So that's the administrative aspects done. So we are, of course, here for a parish meeting. So and it is an opportunity for members of the community to come along and have a chat and to raise any questions or ask for clarification on issues that affect our community. What I would say is this, that let's try and make this meeting as productive as possible in a sensitive and sensible way, so that we can obviously get feedback from you, and I want this meeting to be a real sort of way of communicating and ensuring that when we all go home, we've had a really productive time with it and out of it. So, okay, so who wants to go first? Oh, Jim, your hand up went quick.
Yeah, I noticed you've got a little sign in the park asking people not to leave food. Leave food for birds.
Okay.
We've been trying to get a sign, working in a triangle like that for about 5 years. We've got a problem with pigeons and seagulls. Because one of the traders, unfortunately, insists on feeding them every night, every day, every morning, every night. He also throws meat out of the pigeons. And he also puts his trade waste in the litter bin. So somebody should go in there and just to improve that you've got a contract with somebody to remove his waste. So we, because of this, there's a business there where people sit outside to eat. As soon as they sit there, pigeons and seagulls gather to infect somebody's trade. There's something should be done about it. It's been going on for a long time. Long time.
Yeah. We put the sign up in our park because it's our park or your park, and someone raised the issue. Someone was clearly feeding the birds, obviously good intent, but it has the side issue of rats appearing up here particularly, and pigeons, which are, I think, traditionally known as flying birds. But as far as the issues you've raised in the triangle, I think that's Tingbridge environmental health. There are a number of Tingbridge councillors here.
I'll approach them.
And what do they say?
They said we're waiting to see the man, and he said he doesn't do it. If I asked to look at a contract with a firm for his waste, then that would be more constructive.
Do you know which officer it was at Tingbridge you spoke to?
I think it might be Smith or something.
If you could pass us those details, I could, because the town council has CCTV in the triangles is quite well covered. So we may be able to help Tingbridge in their task.
Because he's good at business. The other thing is, Triangle is the main source of tourism. People pass through. Never been claims since it was created.
Right.
It's black, it's full of vermin, of course. It's not a pleasant thing. It should be. It should be a beautiful place. Which you come from cities, this is not. But it is. It's never been cleaned out. It's quite amazing. It's 115. I forget when they changed it. But the other thing we have a problem with is buskers. Somebody should control it. Because we're getting people singing for 4 hours. And then come back the next day and sing the same for 4 hours. We can do a little, say a little card, when they start something, we give it to them and say, on that card, we suggest you want to sing or play for 1 hour.
I think Councillor Atkins could answer that because there is a buskers code.
There is indeed. Do you want to just explain?
Yeah, we put the buskers code together some good few years ago now, 3 clocks ago, for precisely that reason. If it's any consolation, I work in Superdrug a couple of hours a week, and when you've got the music in there that they have to have as part of their ethic within it, and you get a busker outside who then says, well, turn your music off, why should I turn mine off? You can see the sort of thing you're against. What he doesn't realise is he can't hear us, but he's drowning out, and it's really unpleasant for a lot of the people that work in the shops, etc. We are a town known for its music, and we put together this busking guidelines for all those reasons, because we don't want to live our lives in silence, but we do need to move on. This has been circulated regularly. Most years I go around and do it if Keith doesn't, and we've looked at it. Keith is the chairman of the traders in that instance. It just depends on the shopkeepers themselves going out to politely say, look, you know, it's all very nice and lovely and what have you, but you need to actually pay attention to our code of conduct, code of practice for buskers, and it does ask you to move on at least 50 yards away after an hour, and not, if possible, to use amplification.
There's nothing written that they can see that.
No, it's in a code of conduct. Every shop is given some every year. I think Keith's got the copy on his system that he can run off as many as he wants. I think I did ask last year if anybody wanted to change it, upgrade it, because as far as I know, the law is still the same, and so I've just left it that everybody knows what they're doing. Now, if they don't, then that's for us to sort out around things. Again, the more signs you put up, the less people will pay any attention to them. If you're polite to people, they're usually very good, and they will say, fine, didn't know, but if you take them a copy of the code of guide, code of practice, then they have no doubts in their own mind, they've got a copy, and the end result is, you know, we do ask for your cooperation, but if you really are giving people difficulties, then we will have no choice but to report you to environmental health for noise nuisance. Exmouth did it a few years ago with somebody that was causing them a lot of difficulties in their sort of town square. So it's all there, but it does need some local control, local intervention by people that are having an issue with it.
The buskers code as well is that this thing shouldn't be performing or playing before 10 o'clock in the morning, and they have to stop. sort of, they have to finish by 4 o'clock. So the law also says that actually it's becoming a nuisance, and they're not abating that nuisance, then it's up to the district council that then take legal action or
I didn't
whatever
realise
recourse
that
it is.
they
But
could
I can send you a copy of the current, or I can get a copy printed out for you with it. But I think the best thing to do with that is, obviously, if somebody is busking and they are causing a nuisance, I mean, if somebody does it once, you know, if somebody's there performing once, it's not, you may not like it, but it's not necessarily a nuisance in the legal sense of the word. But the best thing to do is to keep a diary of the buskers, the dates, the times, and you keep very much like you would if it was a neighbour complaint. You keep that diary, you keep that going. They have to be approached to be asked politely to either move or to reduce their noise or change noise, and if that doesn't work, then again it would be for district council to address that. But like I said, I think there is. I can send you I can give you a copy of this, Jim, and then it's got the number and the email and the information on it as well. So maybe we think what we could do is circulate a copy of this on social media or to the retail, particularly around the triangle businesses, so that it's really clear about it. Because, I think that's probably where we are with that at the moment. Okay, yes, Robert.
Yeah, I know we've got a buskers code, but the buskers don't like it. And a lot of shopkeepers that have got the code, they don't like to actually go there and confront somebody who's actually busking. Some of the buskers are really nice people and do a lovely job, and it's great in the town, but I do sympathise. Sometimes we do get a few that they're not going to get through to the next round of the X Factor. And after an hour and a half, it's a bit much. I do think that a sign by the flagpole, a buskers sign, buskers rule sign, one sign, wouldn't hurt. And then you could draw their attention to the sign if anybody was busking.
Good
Well,
idea.
you've
You
got,
could say, look at that.
yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think it's not a bad idea with it.
I think that would be a good compromise.
Yeah.
Because that is the main point. I know they do bus going through the town, obviously super driving, etc. But I think in the triangle, a sign that said buskers please note, and just with the basic rules on there, and that would be a help.
Yeah.
I think it would be a good idea.
Can I say I totally agree? I
totally agree. PCSO there.
Sorry, I'm hiding. Yeah, I speak to buskers, the shops often phone me to go down.
Yeah.
And most of them are okay, most of them have no idea, or they've been told not to have any idea. But you have got all those leaflets.
Yes, yeah.
Situation give them. Most of them do move. If I'm not getting any complaints, then I don't.
Well, that's the
tend to
problem,
leave
isn't it? It's
But if you're a shop and you listen to the same song over and over and again,
you need to have a record.
it needs to be very, it is quite defined in that leaflet that the council have got. But I think they need to have that made very clear to them. They don't know that they're supposed to come up to the council offices and inform you that they're going to be playing, which is part of the rule, and then they should be there for an hour and then they should move to
Yeah, and
the
of course, it's what we forget is actually the triangle is district land. That's the other thing. There is plans, isn't there, for us to, and we've had agreement with district council only this week, actually, days ago. Because at the moment, with any events that go on in the triangle, they might book it through the town council, but it's actually districts that they'll often put things on in the triangle that we know nothing about as well. But this week, Ian was helpfully in liaison with district, and we've had written agreement with them that from going forward, anything that is taking place on an event, busking, whatever it might be, music, whatever production it is in the triangle, will all be managed by us as a town council, which will hopefully sort of condense who's there, so we'll have more knowledge of who's there, because they won't be able to use it unless it's come through us. That might also help them with who's actually in there as well, so making
So
sure.
what about having a sign telling people not to do?
I think with the recent changes that are just about to be finalised. I think that would be within our remit, which it never was before. So I think we could probably do kitchens and that's good.
If you leave that with us, Jim, we'll look into that, all right? But I'll make sure you have a copy of this thing so you can see what it says anyway. David?
Yes, I know.
Sorry, hi. Hi, I would like to make a proposal for the town residents. Good evening, Mayor, the council members, and of course, dear residents who I want to thank for turning up tonight, as well as those who are watching us on live stream. My name is Natalia Dworby, and I'm the resident of Teignmouth Central Ward, and I'm speaking today about an urgent matter that has divided public opinion locally on many moments. We are all relieved that the new toilets on the Den are up and running. However, many residents have voiced their concerns that the 40p charge is unfair and extortionate towards the locals. I would like to make a proposal that I feel will be a fair solution, which are the cards that will allow residents to freely access the public amenities without additional charge of 40p. The application process should be simple and quick and should only require proof of Teignmouth residency in the form of the Teignmouth Council tax. The cards should be physical to allow easy use for residents who aren't tech savvy. And in the future, the plan is to expand the resident card scheme into additional optional benefits at the optional costs. Oh. I hear you. Okay. What do you want us to do with that? Well, actually, you actually asked, what you actually asking just for a resident's toilet pass? Yes, for a resident toilet pass. Have you got costs for that? Because it's all cost money. So if you've got information about how's it going to be funded if it's not by a paper fee, what is it going to cost to have all this done? Who's going to do it? Oh, the town council, of course. With what? With the money that we pay for the council tax. We are the second highest paying council tax in the entire Teignmouth district. There's a reason for that. Do you have any comments?
Well, only that if you develop the pay-to-P revenue that council set, that loss of income will have to be taken out of the budget somewhere else. So what would you like not to be done for that to be brought to bear?
We have a budget set. So our budget setting starts towards the end of the year. So around November time, councillors start thinking about what we have in our reserves, what is being paid, so that ready by the end of January we can then set our precept. So everything is budgeted. And if you then start thinking about wanting to pay for, if you want to take money out of that section in order to pay for the residents' toilet card, well, you're going to take that money from something else. And where's that money coming from? Because at the moment, we have a budget which is set. So the money that this council has is already budgeted. There isn't any spare money to be starting to do this. The idea, I can see why the idea is being brought, but it's the practical reasons of how you would achieve that and how it would be paid for right now if you were renting that right now. But it's, I can see, I completely understand why the community has raised it, why you've raised it, why you would want the town council to think about it. But you can't have an answer on that.
Well, let's make a budget for next year and involve the next year.
Well, that will be the council at the end of the year, 2026, when they start their budget session.
Let's do that. The residents also would like a clarification on who came up with the idea of building the new town blocks instead of refurbishing the old ones? Because it seems like we have no clarification about why are the toilets built instead of refurbished.
Okay.
And a lot of the residents are asking questions.
Okay.
So
Probably
the
too gentle a driver, I think.
toilet block at Eastcliff, there was nothing there to refurbish. That was demolished by Teambridge District Council some years ago to provide extra parking. The site at Key Road, there are no existing toilets there to be refurbished. The den, the biggest unit of them all, Teambridge removed the option for us to refurbish the ground floor of the building because of concrete structures. The building originally was a shelter. It wasn't built as a toilet. I can remember it as a shelter. So the concrete were in there would have made it difficult, but that decision was made by the district council to say, no, but you can have the site where the old aquarium was. So that's how we got there. The only one where, but Lower Brook Street is being refurbished because the building lent itself to being refurbished. And I think we're probably proud to say it's going to have a change in places toilet in it. Sorry. Do you want me to answer you, or you?
I see what
Lower points.
I see what you're saying.
So the point toilet is the only one that's of some contention. And the reason for that was the building is in a very poor state. Collapsed drains under the concrete. Also, what we tried to do, we're trying to put an accessible toilet in every toilet block. And at the point, that was impossible. We actually spoke to Devon County about getting a pavement put around there because there's a step up to it. That wasn't possible, so we said, can we have a hump in the road to get wheelchairs in and out? That wasn't possible. So then where we went was to put a new block on the upper point car park. That was refused by planning. So therefore we've ended up where we are. And you have to bear in mind that all these instances, where we put them is where Teambridge have allowed us to put them. So, you know, if we might want a particular site, but if they're not prepared to give it up, we can't do that. So there's only one, in effect, which is the point, where there is some dispute about refurbishment. So that's my answer.
I think it's also important to note that the issue of the toilets is not a new issue. The plans are not new. The project is not new. This has been a long-standing project for this town council that's been going back 6-7 years when it first started. And there are councillors sitting in this room who actually, you know, that have been fully involved in all of the planning, the idea, the concept, the engagement of what it is for many years. This isn't a 2-year, you know, this didn't start 2 years ago, didn't start last year. This has been a long-standing project. And the information about the toilets has been given at Assets and Facilities meeting, each meeting is being given at council meetings when the toilets has been on the agenda. It has been raised time and time at previous parish meetings. So hang on, let me finish. So going back throughout over a number of years. So it's one of those issues, one of these projects where we're getting lots of information about why, when, who said, who made this decision. Well, it is absolutely open for you to also go back, look at agenda meetings, and look at the minutes from those meetings. There will be lots and lots of information about it. Or indeed, to come in at any time and speak to the clerk and sit down and chat to the clerk as well. So it's, yeah, and the reality is, now we can spend, and we have, quite frankly, this year, spent an enormous amount of time. Most of our time has been taken up with toilets. So when the community is saying, why haven't you done that? Why is this delayed? Why is that? Well, the reason being is because we are constantly firefighting on an issue. What we should be doing is going, do you know what? This town has got brand new, clean, modern toilets. They're open now, apart from the Lower Brook, of course, which is going to be a fantastic, you know, £18,000 to spend on that, which will be a brilliant changing places toilet with space, with everything that's needed for those who are disabled, who are vulnerable, who might be terminally ill. All of these things are really important factors as to what's right. We have areas that don't have toilets or are cutting down toilets, they're removing toilets, but ours are brand new, modern. They are I know there's been a lot of upheaval recently, but actually we as a town should be celebrating that and encouraging other towns to say, look at this, what we have done as a town council. We have taken this on and we are making this an exciting project. I will be very clear with you about it. If we didn't do it, and this town council voted to take on those toilets a few years ago, where actually the vote was, do we take them from Cambridge, do we not, yes or no? And this council voted to do that. We had a vote in November 2024, where it was decided we've got all the planning permissions, we've got what we needed to do, and we were on the contractual tender basis to go out to contractors to tender and to start that. And the question was again raised, do we still proceed with this with the toilet project? We took that we came at it with the thought, this is a really, really good project for the town. If we hadn't done it, those toilets would be closing. I make no bones about it, those toilets would go. And I know that because I've had discussions, I've had a walk around with district where we were looking at possibly keeping one maybe where at Jubilee and possibly one at the Point and nothing else in this town. So, and as a town, compared to a lot of other towns, we are really fortunate with the toilet, the number of public conveniences that we've got in this town. But instead of it, what we have done, what we have seen, and it has been quite atrocious, quite frankly, is just negativity. Let's be positive about it. Let's be positive.
If you're a parent with multiple children and you're struggling financially, how do you think the 40p charge is going to affect when you're out and about with the children and you have to go back and forth, pay 40p every time?
But
you should benefit from the things we get fit for our tax money.
I'm not just I can see the arguments about it, but the reality with it is this: it's 40p, but you would go into a cafe and spend £15 in order to buy 3 coffees just to use the toilet.
But not
That's
everyone
that's the reality.
Yeah.
But there is a pay to P is not new. Pay to P is live throughout this country. You go to London, you pay to P. You go to Torquay and Brixton, you pay to P.
I have spoken with
I've got them all here.
Martin.
I can tell you I've got them all here. So all the information about pay to P toilets I have. These are, what you've also got to think about is this. All right?
You mentioned London, but Martin Wrigley has a flat in London and he has a card that allows him to use public services.
Think about it in another way.
We do it here?
Think about it in another way, all right? So the pay to P is not a decision that the town council took lightly, all right? It wasn't an easy decision, one that we knew that there would be some unhappiness with that. But the pay to P plan is that what happens is those toilets become self-sufficient, they become self-funding as a result of that. The other thing is they become safer, because actually, when you're in there, you've paid to go in, they're not just open to anyone. So actually, there is a preventative measure by having those paddle gates and paying to go in, which adds to the safety elements to it. The other thing with it is if you had just open toilets for everybody, well, you as a resident, you as a taxpayer are paying for everybody. So you're paying for other residents, you are paying for visitors that come to the town. This also enables visitors to contribute to our economy here in Tingler. So that also helps you, because actually it adds on to the toilets themselves becoming self-funding. And the monies that are raised from them, that's what goes into maintaining, into repair, enables the funding of the workers that are in there that help with the cleaning. So it is actually, it's an important point and an important part of why it is pay to pay.
But what about the elderly residents who are on the pension and are struggling? What about the single income families? What about anyone who's struggling financially? Because especially during the summer, we see quite a lot of elderly people have a lovely work in town and they need to go somewhere and it's not always they can afford for it. So they should be allowed to use a resident card to be able to access the amenities, to be able to go in peace without struggling
Well,
and worrying about
there
their
is
costs.
there's going to be a plan for prepayment cards, which I think you've got in hand, haven't you?
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's any update about that. I think you're working with the traders
No, we're
and the
offering
retailers in order to help that.
£2 covers.
So it's, that's what it is. It's what it is. And, you have to balance out and think of all of our community and think of it as a whole and think of it as the project as a whole. It's not just not there for one selection of our community. It has to be self-funding. It has to be a project that will benefit all. And it is. I don't doubt that there are hardships for people, but actually, this is a community. This is life. It's hard for everybody in various ways, well, there we are. I hear what you say, but we are where we are with it. But yes, Jackie.
I'm 76, this birthday coming up, and all my life I've had to pay to be in one way or another, because when we were little in Timoth and other places, we had to put a penny in the slots.
That's where spend a penny
And that's where spend a penny comes from, yes. And actually, to be honest, 40p now is not much more than a penny was in 1955, when I was a 5-year-old down the wreck, as they say. So I do feel that where I've been into towns where they haven't had pay, and there are 1 or 2 left, toilets are not cleaned properly, they're dirty. You go in and you think, oh, is there any toilet paper left? That's not what our toilets are going to be like. And I think, we all managed in those days, why do we not manage now?
I can see Ed's got his hand up at the back, so I saw it come up a couple of times, Ed, so off we go.
I've got a few things. With regards to this, maybe we can get a suggestion to the council to look at the income that comes in for the year, for the first year toilets are open, and then maybe if the income from the toilets exceeds the running costs of the toilets, maybe look at putting some of that excess money to, in future years, running some kind of scheme for people that are on child benefit or on pensions that maybe need help.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. I think that's not a bad suggestion, and it's certainly something that we thought about anyway. But these are new toilets, so they've not been running very long. We won't know what the income from that is yet until we start to analyse those figures and the income that comes in. And those are the sort of things that, again, it's a developing project, isn't it? It's a reviewable project. Thinking about how it goes, because we need to measure users, we need to measure, we have had a lot of vandalism and unsafe behaviour from the toilets, so we need to monitor all of that goes on, as well as the income, as well as, those sort of levels, in order to then work out what might be a better option. But I think if anyone's wanting that now, we can't give you a yes or a no to that at the moment. I think that's a work in progress.
Yeah. I've had a couple of other questions from people who can't be here. Somebody wants to know, do we have an ETA on seafront lighting yet? I know they're waiting for DCC's flag post rules or lamp post rules, whatever it is.
Hang on.
So do we have?
Sorry, I can't hear, so I just thought. Sorry.
So do we have an ETA on when that's happening?
Well, as of earlier this week, we were still waiting for Devon County Council's attachment policy to lampposts. I chased it up a couple of days ago.
Another resident wants to know if the town are planning to do anything or chase up county or district about the lift bins down by Brunswick. Of course, we've got a lovely brand new car park going there. And people are going to park up and see stinking bins just on the street when they're just down the road is an empty shell toilet that would make a great place to just put a bin shed. Get them off the street.
Can I answer that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I have written to assets regarding the car park and asked them to include in the new layout a bin storage area. Okay, that went in 8 to 10 weeks ago. Obviously, work has been slightly slow because of the condition of the culvert and breaking down there. I have requested it. I have not had an answer about it yet. I think they're waiting for it all to be completed and the layout.
Okay, and then it's about, okay, has that answered your question, Ed?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Sorry, who's next then? Sonia, then I'll come, Sonia, it's David, it's you.
Ladies first.
Well, let me get to Sonia first, I saw Sonia's hand, then I'll come to Jimmy. Sonia's hand? Was it Sonia? Oh no, sorry Sonia, I'll give you your hand. Hi Louise.
Hi. But I just want to say something positive first. Thank you very much to all the guys that cut the grass and carved the park. You've done a really good job. It hasn't looked as good for a really long time. So thank you very much for that. I would like to just ask, I hate to bring that again, but 3 years ago, we were informed that the car parking area was going to be resurfaced and some of the money from people paying for parking would contribute to that. I know it wouldn't cover the whole cost, but it would contribute to it. And there was also discussions about having disabled parking, electric charging points. I know this car park's been dug up to have new CCTV installed, which is great. But nothing else has happened really, so I've got 2 questions really. One, why hasn't it happened when we were promised it? I said it was just before she left, I think. And then 2, when will it happen?
Okay. If I start with the car park, the revenue from car parking would take something in excess of 20 years to raise enough money to resurface the car park. Yeah, but we have been putting money in earmarked reserves for that purpose. When we first applied for planning permission, because this is a grade 2 stylistic building, and the grounds come under that, they call it under the influence of a grade 2 stylistic building. And we wanted to provide electric vehicle charging points, some disabled spaces, as you have mentioned, and some cycle racks. And the conservation officer wasn't going to have any of that. So what we have done, and there are some other bits and pieces like solar panels for the house, is we have put all our rotten eggs in one basket. So all the things the conservation officer doesn't like, we're going to put into a single application, which is being prepared, and we've got an ex-English heritage consultant who will write the necessary words. And should we be successful, then council will then be at liberty to spend the money in the reserves to do the cover.
So is there a risk, with being all at once, that can they, when you put in planning permission, can they grant part of it and not other parts? I'm concerned if you've got everything all together at once, it's easy for them just to say no. Whereas if you put it in, and I guess there must be a cost with that too, but if you put them in separately, then it's not so easy for them just to say no to everything.
So what we found over the last few years is various planning applications have gone in for various things, and there may be one rotten egg in with that, and we've lost the whole thing because of the one rotten egg. So the methodology is let's bring the big guns in, let's bring the consultants in from ex-English heritage, because quite frankly the rejections are, in my view, ridiculous. Who would not be providing EV charging points? Disabled bays, cycle racks. It is ludicrous. So, but I think it's the right tack to take them all at once.
I mean, we obviously got planning permission to have shipping containers in the car park. So we've got those. Obviously, they were particularly.
No, but that is just short term. So they can't stay there permanently. No, they have to be replaced with a permanent building, which we have got permission for. But that took over a year to get that. So it is being worked on.
What's the timeline for that? The planning?
I would expect the appropriate application to be in by the end of the summer with all the supporting documents.
All the other stuff as well.
Yeah, there's nothing new. All the things you've already mentioned to do with the car park, the resurfacing. I mean, most of the parking bays we were going to change to grasscrete, so not tarmac. So it's, you know, mats underneath. So drainage is better. It's better environmentally, but the answer was no. So we have to. Sometimes you have to give it your best shot. Okay.
Jimmy, you got your hand up.
I think it's only this first.
Okay, Naomi, did you? Later?
Well, I wouldn't say anything, but it just seems like every time there's a council meeting, it's a bit hostile, and it's hard to, as a new person, it's hard to get anything in because you feel like you're in school firstly. Because Natalia gave a presentation, I mean, she discussed it a bit earlier, and I thought, well, why not? It might not be a bad idea in the future. Everyone probably knows this, because I don't know if I do know this, but for the toilets, do you have to get the public, I mean, the local community to vote yes or no, or do you just go ahead and do it because you think it's beneficial?
Well, everything comes to full council.
Do we get a vote on like, the new
Yes,
toilets, for
you have your
example?
elected representatives who are your councillors.
I didn't hear you talking really slow.
So your councillors are your elected representatives. So when we're dealing with projects, this council, so what you have to know with Tingworth is that it's actually sort of governed by three layers, if you like. So we have our town council, we have our district council, and we have our county council. But the problem is that for us sometimes as a town council, we don't really own much.
I'm starting to sense now, we have no power, no voice, but we really need to shut up.
So most of the projects and things you want to do, or we might want to do as individuals or indeed as councillors, we often have to go to district council, we have to go to Teaminge district, or we have to go to Devon County Council for permissions. We have to do a huge amount of sort of work, paperwork, assessments, in order to deal with projects. And again, if members of the public bring anything to their council and they have ideas or they want to, you know, progress something, it has to come through. There are formalities to bring it to full council for discussion. What you can't do is just turn up and think, I want to do that and I want council to vote on it. So we have what's known as motions, where a motion is an idea, a plan, you know, an idea that you want to bring to your councillor, for your councillors who are your legally represented. They're your legal representatives, because of course they've been elected in law to legally represent you.
Okay,
so that's the thing, that's how we can't just go and vote on things or spend, but we can't go spending money without a project or a plan having come to the town council for us to discuss it. That's for our clerk and his team to do some research on it. So if there's an idea, for example, with the residence card, all right, the residence card is a great idea, I think, in the principle of it. So what you would do is you would want someone to go, right, okay, we need to look at it, how's it going to work cost-wise, who's it going to affect, so we have to look at all of that. We have to look at how we balance, you know, how it's, like I say, how it's funded, how it's paid for, how it works in reality, who would be the provider of those cards. There's lots of things that you do, then you bring to your councillors to discuss it and think, and then your councillors will vote on it as to whether it's then something that's taken forward.
So whose idea was it to bring the toilets and charge us for it? That's all I wanted to know. And also, if it backfires,
well,
can I just please finish? It's a tourist town, like I said, I've not been here for that long, so I could be wrong. If it backfires, personally, I think it's too much to charge for it. As someone that has a 2-year-old, and we're out all day, especially when it's warm, it's nice. And I've got time, how many times I've got to weep, or do I drink? Do I stay dehydrated? Or luckily my son is in potty trained yet, so he's got nothing, that's great. But when he's moving on from there, what do I do? Do I run back home to pee every time? I don't drink coffee, so I'm not spending money in Costa. I can't go there and pee because I'm not paying.
Well, I mean, is
Wait, just one more, please.
Well,
And
I'm
after you
you're
realise,
asking about 3 different things at once.
I know, it's tied in one, I'm gonna say this and I'll sit down.
Part and then move to the next part. Okay.
I realise it's a tourist place, and if I was to live in Newcastle, for example, and I come here every summer, and I want to get a beach hut, do I pay every single time to pee? I know everyone's saying it's happening all over the world, I get it. But would it put the holiday makers off? And if it backfires, can we just go back to not charging? Is that a possibility? That's what I wanted to know.
Well, as I say, these are the sort of things that get analysed, and I addressed Ed earlier, was about all of this information is going to be coming back to council over the next few months once we see how things are working.
They're transparent because we have a problem with transparency.
Well, there is lots of transparency. Talking about that transparency again, you know, the issue of transparency goes both ways. Effectively, you know, it is right that you can come and speak to this council, and it is right that you speak to your councillors at any stage. The door is never closed for you to come and do that, or to come in and sit down with the clerk and have more information. That is open to everybody, and especially if you are fairly new to the town. So that way you can make sure that the information you are getting is accurate and is from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Sorry, Ian. But that's the issue with it. All right, there's a lot of information that's currently out and about which isn't always accurate. So you know, come and speak to us about it. You know, it's about information and information sharing, but it being correct information. And and as far as, you know, decisions that have been made in relation to projects that this council are involved in, as I said right at the start, you have to go back 6 years or so, because actually it's around those times where actually there were lots of conversations and discussions and decisions made which deal with the projects that we are still, in this current council, having to resolve and bring to fruition. So that is the toilet project, that's the community huts projects, that's the sea lighting projects. So they're all there, and your councillors that sit on this council, all right, they all have the information. So we've got 12 town councillors, so they all have the information. They have the information from committee meetings, they have them from the full council meetings, they have it for informal meetings that we have, particularly at budget setting, and they have all of the information through our full council meetings. So there is not one councillor that sits on this town council that isn't aware of everything that's gone on. And if one councillor or 2 councillors or 3 councillors say they don't know what's been going on, they don't know how that's happened, then I'm afraid that's not accurate, because they've either not been reading the documentation, they've not been paying attention to things, but they're voting on significant decisions about projects which are happening. So again, it's about the transparency of it. So let's, you know, come in and chat to us, Naomi. Honestly, you know, come in and sit down, have a chat, and we can just talk about it. So that answers any questions that you've got. And the same is said to you, Natalia. If you want to come and sit down and chat with me and Ian, you're more than welcome to do that. All right. So, Jimmy.
Yes, thank you very much, Jimmy Robinson. I have some notes out, that's all right.
Oh, I thought you'd come with notes, Jimmy.
Yes, first I'd like to congratulate the council on their decision to stream and record the meetings. This provides, as we've just been discussing, transparency, accountability, and most importantly, accessibility for people who are unable to attend the meeting in person. These recordings show exactly the level of professionalism and the decision-making process in the inclusive debating process of this council. I would also like to pass on my thanks to Ed here, noting that without his relentless pursuit of this improvement, it would not have happened. So Ed can have a round of applause for him. Of course, some decisions, as you already noted, Kate, were made by this council predating these recordings.
Yes.
Now, it might be my simple lack of digital technology skills, but for the life of me, I cannot find any recording of when what was clearly going to be a contentious decision by the council, but Orwellian invasion of privacy in the vault was debated and voted upon by our elected representatives. The only time I can find reference to CCTV in any documentation from this council is normally just a note that the town clerk gave a verbal update. But there's no mention of what that update was, or indeed no follow-up discourse or debate. So please, firstly, can you signpost me to which meeting or meetings this CCTV intrusion was debated and agreed upon by our elected representatives? If there isn't one, then we can only assume that this has been foisted on the good people of Teignmouth by the unelected officer. Additionally, I cannot find anywhere on the website the data protection impact assessment document that was used by jurors during the BBC filming the other day. Please can you direct me to where I can find a copy of this document on your website? And finally, I would like to know the cost that the residents are in for with regard to the maintenance contract for all the recording equipment. And this maintenance contract is of paramount importance for keeping the firmware and software of those cameras up to date and cyber secure. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Okay.
So, regarding the CCTV in toilets specifically, at the council meeting of the 21st of January 2025, various items were authorised, which was the contract for the toilets, the wall gates, which are the hand wash units, the paddle gates, which are the turnstiles, additional groundworks, CCTV and building management system, so it's not just CCTV, and broadband services to all the toilets. So that was approved at that meeting. How much debate there was is rather down to your councillors.
This is exactly my point. You can approve some money, but not how that is going to be implemented. And I cannot believe that our elected representatives did not even discuss that. If they didn't discuss it, I can't find any documentation that they did. They didn't discuss it and they didn't vote on it.
Are they voted on?
How can they vote on something that they haven't discussed? They voted on a figure. I'm not interested in the figure.
What debate takes place is out of my hands.
Okay, so the chair. Was it debated? Was it debated? Yes or no?
It's well over a year ago. I can't remember that meeting, so I need to review my notes.
You have to review the minutes of the
I need
meeting
to
on the
review.
website.
No, I never said that. I said I need to review my own notes of that meeting and my notes against the agenda before I discuss. Now, what we do know is that, you know, we know that with toilets, as a member of the public and the public generally, we've got a very high expectation of privacy in public conveniences, and quite rightly we should. And it's not illegal to have CCTV in toilets, in the toilet blocks, in the corridors of that, in order for safety, particularly, you know, for safety, to help against unsociable behaviour, vandalism, and any other, you know. So that's the and repeated criminal damage, I suppose. That's the other point, which is what this town council had. So I mean, quite frankly, I can't remember what I said or at that time, because it's quite some time ago, and I would need to reflect back on my notes and research. But again, I can't remember what the other councillors said. Or
But you will provide a note to that meeting minutes.
Well, you've got the
Well, it's now recorded in glorious YouTube. That meeting was the 15th of October 2024. No, sorry. Wrong set of
21st of
minutes.
January.
21st of January 2025. However, the data impact assessment, which will be going on our website, it's not there currently, because they're not required to be on the website, but it will be going up as a response to an FOI request we've received. So that will be going up shortly. The data impact assessment was agreed on the 5th of June 2025. And in the lead up to that, and in many discussions with councillors, the methodology for how the CCTV was designed to possibly prevent vandalism, but certainly catch vandals, was clear. Now, the one thing that went wrong, if you like, was to fulfill the data impact assessment for the accessible cubicles. All the other cubicles are fine. We followed a technical route, which proved to be, once in public use, unsatisfactory, which is why they were removed, and cameras to replace those will be put in the corridors. It doesn't give us as much vision as to how the cubicle's been left, but that's a trade-off. So that's what went wrong, and that would be my responsibility. The cost of that will be small because the cameras will be reused.
If the data impact assessment was done at the time, as you said, there was some kind of a debate on this, why was that not part of the minutes of that meeting in which it was discussed?
Because it was, well, it could have been a debate if someone had raised it. The item would have been on the agenda. Whether your councillors have asked questions about it or not is another matter. At Assets meeting, if nowhere else, which it was monthly and is now 2 monthly, toilets have been debated or discussed at every meeting since May 2019, because that's the gestation period that this project has taken.
And not one councillor thought that this might be a problem. Anyway, okay, you're going to throw that in. My last point.
Yeah, sorry.
About the maintenance contract.
Yeah, that can, if you want to put an FOI in, we can supply that. There is a maintenance contract.
There is a maintenance
contract. As it stands at the moment, it's quite fragmented because it's off the back of the town CCTV contract, and that is ever changing. But yes, there are maintenance contracts that cover.
Verbally, you're taking an FOI now, but just that is true.
Well, I haven't got the number.
I don't mean the exact figure, a ballpark.
I'm not going to quote you a ballpark figure that will be wrong. But I can certainly, I remember lots of things, but I can't remember every number. I've come prepared tonight to answer questions I would suspect would come up.
So in the minutes of this meeting, you can include that answer, right?
Not in the minutes, no.
Why not?
Well, because it didn't happen at this meeting. I can provide that answer. I'm not.
You can provide it together with the minutes.
Well, the minutes might not come out for a year. So what I'm saying is we can provide that answer much quicker than that.
And where will we find it?
Well, do you want to drop me an email and I'll reply to it?
As you well know, my emails do suddenly disappear into the ether.
Well, if we know you're going to email, then you'll get your answer.
Okay.
But I think you have to bear in mind that there are committees that run things here, and you have some elected representatives that don't ask questions, or in fact, probably not on any committees.
You'll get that information. Jimmy, if you email Ian, we'll get that information for you. All right? Okay. David, I see you've got your hand up.
Yeah, just a quick one. Again, I know it's a very contentious issue, clearly.
Right.
Regarding transparency, we'll get about freedom of information. Because obviously the figures are audited, would the town council be willing to publish, say on their Facebook page, the costings behind 40p for the toilets? So the public.
Have you
can see
given
what
the
the cost
rationale?
is.
What, sorry, you want so later on when
Well,
we start, once we start analysing
no, I'm talking, when you costed the 40p, you would have done some work in, so there would have been some calculation, so we be prepared for transparency to publish that for the public.
So to set the scene as to how we got to 40p, in May 2019, when I was going to say this started, arguably it started in 2015, when Cambridge District Council were going to shut a number of toilet blocks in Timoth, and this town council at that point, I wasn't here.
I wasn't here.
They decided, no, we cannot let that happen in a tourist town. By 2019, the situation was those 6 toilet blocks were costing north of £200,000 a year in everything, you know, water, electricity, cleaning, vandalism, unsustainable. So the council was of the view, we'll give some of it back, but slippery slope. So I was asked, hadn't been here, I didn't arrive until January 19, to produce a report. I went to successful models in Cornwall, because Cornwall has become a unitary council, so they were sort of going through those pains 10 years ahead of Devon. Report was prepared and pay to be was voted on at that point in time, because by then Torbay had gone pay to be and free toilets were falling over like dominoes across the country. So given the passage of time between May 2019 and when the pay to P budget or pay to P fee was set, it was set at 40p on the basis that East Devon District Council have just modernised all the council toilets in East Devon, not the town council. They've gone in at 40p.
Dartmouth, 20p, Brixton's 8p.
Yeah. And anything in Torbay Council is 30, but we understand is on the verge of moving. Exeter, you can pay 50p plus. So 20p. Sorry?
20. Plymouth is 20.
What, everywhere in Exeter is 20p?
Yeah, Plymouth is 22, my best one is
I disagree with that, but the point rather is that pay to P is.
So there is no specific cost incentive. I'm not trying to be argumentative.
No.
I'm releasing that, we'll explain that, because I understand you'll be charging VAT.
So in 2019, we joined the British Toilet Association. You know, it doesn't get much more exciting than that. And what we would expect to see when you introduce pay to P is usage will drop by 40%. And then over the next year or two, it will come back up to where it was. And that is the phase we're going to be in. So even if we look a year and a bit from now, when the toilets are all in service and we see the income and the costs, that's probably a worst case scenario because it should get better. Yeah.
But like I say, I was only asking a question on the basis if there was costing, that would help people's anxiety.
I think it would be good if perhaps we could have 2 minutes afterwards, so I can understand exactly what you want.
Yeah, no, the reason I say is I understand that there's a VAT, we don't have 40p, there'll be VAT.
No, toilets are not battered. They are, that's one thing the government, and miraculously halfway through the project, the government decided that they would be exempt from business rates as well. So.
Okay, I can see an arm at the back, but I don't know who's it attached to. Oh.
Yeah, right. So I have 2 questions, please. One that really just requires an email response, because probably won't be able to give me a detailed response tonight. So, first question, which is an email response, please. I'm looking at your earmark reserves, and I'm bearing in mind within the report we've just been submitted now, Councillor Atkins has said that the cost of the building the toilets has come from a budget account, a cash account. You've got roughly 825,000 in a unitary deposit account. You've got roughly £500,000 in a CCLA account. Obviously, some of that is earmarked. Can you please provide a detailed breakdown of what they are earmarked to?
So.
No, not tonight, just email.
No, well, because I can't give you, if you ask for something that doesn't exist, I can't give it to you. So the answer is the earmarked reserves will be reset at the first finance meeting, which is probably going to be around the end of May. Because basically, there was earmarked reserves for the bulk of the toilets, and because we are making stage payments on a monthly basis, that has been coming out of the current account, and therefore the money needs to be taken out of the earmarked reserves to go back into the current account, and actually to ensure that we have the legal minimum of general reserves.
3 months.
Sorry?
You roughly need 3 months of operating.
25% depreciation.
Well, 3 months. 3 months is 25% of 12 months. So, are you really telling me out of the 1.8 billion, 1.38 billion pound you have in various deposit accounts, you don't know what you're going to use that for?
No, not at all.
So you do have an idea of what you're using it.
No, you're confusing.
Not quite.
Paul, no,
Do you want an answer or not, Mr.
hang on,
Burgess?
hang on. Paul, you've asked, Paul, just a minute, hang on. You've asked a question,
But it's not answering.
but he's just given you an answer, but he's answered your first part. He's just about to answer your second question there, so allow him the opportunity to do that, please.
So, bank accounts and earmark reserves, there is no correlation whatsoever. That is your first mistake.
It's not a mistake because in your audit report it says in our earmark reserves we have £1.38 million. And all I'm asking is can you give a breakdown of that, how that's going to be allocated? Because if it's not currently allocated and it's going to go back into your cash budget, then surely some of that could be used to reduce the cost of the toilet charge, which I'm sure is something everybody in this room would want. That leads on to my second question.
Hang on, do you want an answer to that first bit?
No, just the email.
No, that's not clear on the rest that's sitting here. Actually, so I'm just going to put, our RFO Louise is sitting there, so maybe Louise, are you able to answer anything on that, just to add some clarity, please?
I can't answer off the top of my head, but I've been looking at them all afternoon because I'm here for a couple of days to close the 25-26 accounts. So what I can say is that as at the 31st of March, Teignmouth Town Council held just over £1.2 million in reserves. Now reserves sit in your bank accounts, but then they're, you will know this for everybody, but are accounted for in your earmarked reserves. Now at the moment, there's a sort of an alarming picture as far as the numbers can, in that it looks like there's a deficit of £800,000 on the revenue account. There isn't a deficit of £800,000 because it's sitting in the earmarked reserves and has to be transferred to the general reserve to make sure that that deficit for the year disappears. It's quite technical, but there is enough money in the thing. But the target, the strategy is to keep a general reserve of 25% preset, and I have no reason to think that that won't be achieved.
But my question
Thank
was,
you.
25% is roughly 400,000. So out of the 1.2 you have, some of that money is going to be transferred to pay for the toilets, which everybody in this room understands. And some of that money will not be. So what is the remaining balance going to be used for? Is it just going to go into the cash account?
Well, you've already heard
No.
the answer.
No.
There were questions earlier about some.
So when we set the budget in January this year, the council will be running on the legal 25% minimum of general reserves. All other monies are allocated. And when? Yes, they are.
Yeah, sorry, we're going around these circles. To start my question, could you give a breakdown of how they're allocated?
And as I tried to say to you, at the next finance meeting, when what Louise was explaining to you, that will occur, and then the earmark reserves will be public in their new form.
We'll get there in a second. Right, the second question relates to the toilets.
Okay.
Okay. First of all, congratulations. The toilets look very clean. And yes, look at a lot of little towns, they don't have toilets. So, well done for that. The safeguarding issue with the cameras, I mean, somebody done a bit of basic research, but again, therefore, you've actually listened to people and taken the cameras out. So, very well done to you. However, having worked with lots of young children, there's lots of young families in Teignmouth. There are lots of young people who have issues with disabilities relating to toilet issues. There are lots of tourists coming to this town. I mean, part we had 600 people taking part, probably the best part of 2,000 people down there, all wanting to use the toilet. And the charge, and I understand one of the reasons behind it is to deter vandalism. The charge of 40p is just stupid. Utterly stupid. All it's doing is it's penalising people who aren't penalising people who are suffering financially. It's penalising tourists. You listen to what tourists are saying, and they're saying, oh, I won't go back there. Now, it might only be 40p, but if you're a family, mum, dad, 2 kids, you're coming into town, you're spending money in town, yeah, they could use the toilet 3 or 4 times a day. Some of the children we look after need to use the toilet 5 or 6 times a day if we're in town. So surely there's a halfway house there. And that halfway house, and you could do this tomorrow morning, that halfway house will be to reduce that charge and meet people halfway. You could drop it to 20 pence, and the effect on your budget, yeah, it's going to be paid for, but the effect on your budget won't be that catastrophic.
What would the effect be?
Well, I guess if you have 5 people, assuming you have 500 people on average throughout 52 weeks a year using toilets, you're probably talking about 30,000–40,000. Yeah. Now, bearing in mind your staff costs have gone up, well, since 2021, have risen by 140%. You're just under what, 400,000 now? These are your figures from your audit report. I'm not making these up. You come up with recruiting somebody else, you know. If you can justify increasing your staff costs, surely for everybody in this room, for every member of the public who uses those toilets, for all the tourism, you could have a halfway house and reduce that charge tomorrow. I want you to take that on board, and all your councillors need to take that on board. And this culture that seems to be growing, where if members of the public, we're all sat here tonight on a beautiful Sunday night, we probably all have better things to do to be with our families. But this culture that seems to have happened, whereby people raise the point, oh, you're being negative, you're against this council. Yeah. We're not against this council. We desperately want you to work. But there has to be a two-way street. You need to listen to what people are saying and respond accordingly. And if you do that, I have no doubt whatsoever, doors will open. By raising this point, I'm not being negative. I want to keep people coming to me. And there's a halfway house. You can reduce that charge tomorrow. The budget, well, you've got cash you can have tomorrow. You've already admitted that. You've got cash you can transfer. You can do it tomorrow. Just listen to what
the money would have to be taken from a budget line somewhere.
You're not listening. You've already admitted. You've already admitted. You are
yeah, I think that's okay. I hear what you say.
Good.
You made an assertion, Mr. Burgess, about staff costs, and the figures are what they are. What I would point out to you.
That's old ground.
No. You want to talk when you want to talk. There's an answer. You might not like the answer, but there's an answer. Of the 18 largest councils in Devon, right, of which Teignmouth is one, so we all have precepts there or thereabouts, some are bigger, we have the lowest ratio of staff costs to precept. I see it on social media. Okay. We've got more staff than Newton Abbot. So why is Newton Abbot's council tax staff bill nearly £800,000 then? Numbers don't add up.
Anyway.
That's it. I've answered.
All right. Okay. So I think. Well, I think that's. Well, I'm conscious of time because it's now 5 to 8, and our agenda was actually for an hour. One small thing, and then I'm going to put it to an end.
There's 3 what are blocked out windows, what appear to be blocked out windows in den toilets. Could they not be used to highlight events of the town? For example, I'm around the town quite a lot. I did not realise we had a car show this weekend.
Well, I don't know anything about big wheel either. Just to deal with that, hang on. The car show fantastic, but it was nothing to do with, it wasn't a successful event, as you know. It was a drive day organised by the Crash Box Club. And actually they commented as well on social media to say that they had realised their own promotions was shortcoming this time, but they've learned from that because of the feedback, but notwithstanding that, there has been.
Sorry, I'm not trying to knock.
No, I get that, I get that.
We've got three window panes, what will look like, could be used positively for events and other.
Straight answer is the back of the toilet block opposite the pier is potentially going to be a mural of some sort if competitions create it. The creation of the toilet block was heavily influenced by the conservation officer. So we might be able to put something in the windows because, as you say, they lend themselves to being used for something. But we will have to get conservation's blessing before we do it. Sadly, Timothy, as you probably know, most of it is in a conservation area.
But we do, I think, as a principle, we do want
It
to
is on the
decorate it
radar.
up, because it looks ugly. And, you know, the whole, we've been having some discussions about having a competition, a community competition open, so that somebody can come up with a fantastic design that can go on the toilets to give that, bring it to life effectively. And that's something that we're going to release that information about how people can do that. So I think Brighton and that blocker will also make it much more, well, I'm not saying inviting's the wrong phrase, nobody wants to be invited to public toilets.
Red arrows,
But
something
it'll
small
look
like.
nice, it'll look nice. I'm going to carry, and then I think we'll call it to an end because it's
I
new.
was just going to say that instead of having a mural, I think it would be more beneficial to have in big letters, toilets, card only, so that people have some information.
The signage that's there is
People are
temporary.
asking, where is the toilets, where is the toilets, they don't even know where they are. Even though it's a huge building, so I think some actual, that people can see from a long way away, toilets.
And I think the other problem at the moment is we've still got the old block that Cambridge haven't yet removed.
Yeah.
So once that removed, that might also help the
visibility of that particular water
actually get onto that. So.
The signage is temporary.
Yeah.
And they will be much bigger. And
Okay.
Tanya made a proposal, we should vote on it, or the people or residents of Timber should
No,
vote
it
on it.
wouldn't be
It
at
would be
all.
legal.
So there's, as David, as we said earlier in this meeting, addressing Ed, and responding to Ed, is these are all new toilets. You've got to allow us to look at that and analyse what's been said today and what will be happening. So,
Motion's been made, it should be voted on. You look in the 1972.
yes, Schedule 12 of the Local Government Act 1972. I've got it here. I know that law, David. Thank you very much.
We've taken the message.
We've got the message. So there's no information available for us to vote on, and it would be actually negligent, I would say, respectfully to you, David, to do any sort of voting like that on information we don't have. All right. So we've heard what Natalia said. We've heard what everyone else has said, and that we can now take that back and we can consider that and sort of look at it in a bit more detail outside of this meeting. But please be reassured that as far as the public toilets are concerned, what we want is to ensure that for our community, they're clean, they are safe, they are tightly controlled, so that they are looked after, they're securely operated. We are following strict data protection laws now. We are following all of the information and guidance that we have been given by the police contacts who have helped with that project as well. We've completed our risk assessments. We've done everything we can to ensure that any systems cannot be misused or accessed unlawfully. And we've also made sure that we are completely aligning with the Information Commissioner Office and the government guidance in relation to the toilet blocks. So I think hopefully that will reassure. But we've heard what you said tonight. So I can only say thank you for coming along. I know sometimes these issues are always not easy. The cases are difficult. Sometimes I know emotions and everyone, we come at it from different angles. But I think we all want to do what's right for our town and make everyone sort of, not make everyone happy, but okay.
Just one question, I just wanted to know, does our town clerk have his SILCA? And if not, when is this expected
Well,
to be
I
completed?
Hang on. No, I'm not, actually,
I just want to finish and then I can go.
No, I'm going to say to you, you have raised an issue about which is an HR, and there is law and data protection covering that, so no, you won't be having an answer on that. And it's inappropriate, this meeting, it will be coming to an end in a moment, it is highly inappropriate for you to raise HR matters at a parish meeting. And so, as I say, there are protection laws in place which govern the staffing and how our council staff, including the clerk, are addressed. So that question will not be answered. So on that basis, I don't think that is a helpful thing to do at the end of the meeting, and it's a shame really. So let's end the meeting now, all right? Because it is 8 o'clock and we can't interact. Sorry.
I wasn't talking to you, Kate, I was talking to a member of the public.
That's fine. So it's 8 o'clock now, so we will close the meeting. Thank you.
Well done, Kate.